So, in the family picture my son drew at school, there's his mom. There's him. But not me. The little red-roofed house was scribbled in colored pencil. Beside it, a patchy green yard. On that yard, just two figures, mother and child. The place where I should have been was nothing but a blank space. I sat in silence, staring at it. The longer I looked, the colder it felt. "Dad, this is my family." His cheerful voice filled the room. He handed me the drawing, beaming. He had no idea. My heart was sinking into a bottomless pit. I forced a smile, but my throat tightened. I asked, voice trembling, "So, where's Dad?" He looked up. Innocent eyes, calm voice. "Oh, I forgot to draw you. You always come home late. Maybe you weren't there." I couldn't speak. The sound of Lego pieces clicking filled the silence, while in my head, there was only a heavy ringing. No one told him to erase me. He just drew what he felt. And what he felt was my absence. That's when I faced the truth. I'm alive. I live under this roof. I go to work every morning. But in the world of my own family, I've been gone for a long time. That blank space in the picture wasn't a mistake. It was proof. Proof of a truth I hadn't dared to face. My wife had slowly pushed me out of her life, and out of my son's life too. I took a deep breath. Put the drawing down. My hands shook, like I had just grabbed a shard of broken glass. I looked around the living room I thought I knew, but everything felt foreign. And in that moment, I knew. This was no longer the family I believed in. And the reason I'd been erased from that picture was more painful than anything I could have imagined. My name is William. I'm 37. On paper, I'm the business development director of a mid-sized tech company. To my friends, I'm the man with a steady family, a solid career, a life people would envy. But the truth? That perfect surface is just a shiny wall, hiding the cracks spreading inside. Every morning, I wake up a little earlier than my wife and son. I make a strong black coffee, skim through my emails, get the car ready to drive my boy to school. He loves Lego so much that sometimes I'd see him clutching a little green piece, fast asleep in the back seat. After waiting up for me too late the night before, I still remember one morning, I opened the door and found him curled up on the sofa, the Lego box wide open, pieces still in his hand. I carried him to his bed, pulled the blanket over him. My chest tightened. But instead of stopping to think, I told myself, it's fine. When work gets easier, I'll make it up to him. I didn't know. That wasn't the first night he'd waited for me in vain, and it wouldn't be the last. The company I worked for was like a child I had raised from nothing. I still remember the first days. Just a few wooden desks. I even used a cardboard box as my table. We ate instant noodles. We slept on office chairs. And yet, those were the best days. Because I believed in the future. And I believed my wife was walking beside me. She worked in HR back then, always by my side in every meeting. I used to tell people, this company isn't just my career. It's the dream my wife and I built together. We married in our early 20s. I still remember her eyes on our wedding day, shining, as she whispered, "We'll build everything, from nothing." I believed her, with everything I had, and for years, I thought I was right. But then, the small changes began. Some nights, she came home later than usual. When I asked, she said quickly, "HR meetings." I nodded, didn't question. I wanted to believe. Another time, I suggested a movie after dinner. She brushed me off. "I'm tired. Tomorrow's busy." I stayed quiet. Maybe she really was tired. But the way she said it, no eye contact, no warmth, made me feel the distance growing. I remember one evening, I walked into the living room. She was whispering on the phone. When she saw me, she hung up fast, forced a smile. Just a client. I wanted to believe. But inside me, a question echoed with no answer. My son, he stayed innocent. He'd ask, "Dad, can we go to the park this weekend?" And I'd answer, "Dad's busy, maybe next week." Every time he nodded, trying to hide the disappointment in his eyes. I told myself, I'm working for his future. But what he needed most wasn't a future without worries. It was a present, with his father by his side. Sometimes friends came over. They'd look at my family and say, "You're a lucky man. A wife, a child, a career. Perfect." I smiled, but in my head, a bitter thought rang out. Yeah, perfect. So perfect that at dinner, the sound of knives and forks on plates is louder than our voices. The cracks grew deeper. I began to notice I was left out of important meetings. When I asked, my wife said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." I frowned. "But this is my company too." She looked at me. Cold eyes. "Just focus on your own work." Her words cut like a knife. For the first time, I felt, in the very company we built together, I was an outsider. I'd always been proud of trusting my wife. I never checked her phone, never questioned why she was late, never doubted the strange expenses. I thought that was respect. But now I see, maybe it wasn't just trust. Maybe it was blindness. That blind faith turned me into a man who knew nothing about his own family. To the outside world, I was still the successful husband, the man with the perfect home. But inside, I was living in a house full of empty spaces, a husband pushed out of his wife's heart, a father slowly fading from his son's memories. And all of that would become undeniable. After the picture, my son drew. That morning, I came to the office earlier than usual. The place was still dark. Only a row of dim fluorescent lights over the conference table. I walked in, reaching for the files I needed for a client meeting. But when I opened the folder on the table, my whole body turned cold. It was the minutes of a board meeting, with my wife's signature at the bottom. The document stated clearly, a transfer of company ownership to the new CEO. My name, the co-founder, was nowhere on it. I read it 3 times. Every word cut into my chest like a knife. I knew for sure I had never agreed to this. I carried the file straight to her office. She looked up as I slammed it on her desk. "What is this?" My voice was hoarse. She barely glanced at it, let out a sigh. "Don't get worked up, William. Just paperwork. I signed on your behalf." "On my behalf? This is company ownership. Why isn't my name on it? Why did you sign without asking me?" She leaned back in her chair, her tone flat. "You should focus on your own tasks. Let me handle the documents. You don't need to be involved in everything." I froze. That wasn't the voice of a wife. It was the voice of a cold manager. I walked out, my head spinning. Her words echoed in my ears. "You don't need to be involved in everything." Like she was shutting me out. From that day, the signs became clearer. Important contracts I had always handled were suddenly reassigned. Strategic meetings. I was no longer invited. When I asked, she said bluntly, "CEO's decision. Don't worry about it." Don't worry? I was there from day one. How could I not worry? And it wasn't just work. The family finances started to show cracks too. One bank statement showed a charge at a luxury hotel. When I asked, she answered quickly, "Entertaining clients. The company will reimburse." I nodded. But inside, unease grew. Why use her personal card? And why a hotel, instead of the office or a restaurant, like before? One night at dinner, our son was coloring. Halfway through the meal, he looked up and asked innocently, "Dad, why is Mom always with Uncle Mark lately, and not you?" The spoon slipped from my hand, clattered on the plate. My wife snapped, "Eat your food, don't ask nonsense." Our boy lowered his head, silent. I looked at her. She avoided my eyes. Later that night, after our son went upstairs, I confronted her. "What are you hiding from me? I feel like I'm being pushed out of the company, and out of this family." She answered coldly, "You're too sensitive. Everything I do is for our future." I laughed bitterly. For our future? Or for another family I don't know about? She stood up, walked away, left me alone with a plate of cold food. A few days later, an email arrived. From an unknown address. Just one line. "The company is no longer yours. They've been preparing for this all along." I read it over and over, sweat dripping down, hands shaking. Who sent it? Why to me? A chill ran down my spine. That night, I asked her. She smirked. "You're too easy to fool. Don't let silly things online get to you." Then she turned away, leaving me with 1,000 questions. There were nights I came home late, opened the fridge, and found only a leftover box. I sat eating alone, under the yellow light, facing the empty chair where my wife once sat. That chair was like a wound, a reminder that I no longer had anyone to share with. In the living room, my son would fall asleep on the sofa, crayon still in his hand. I'd carry him to bed, tuck him in, but inside, a heavy weight pressed down. How many times have I left him waiting like this? Piece by piece, it all came together. The board document, the hotel expense, my son's innocent question, the anonymous email, her evasive eyes, all forming a picture I didn't want to admit. My wife was betraying me, not just as a wife, but as a partner. In the company we once called our second child. I had been erased. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to my son breathing in the next room. And I asked myself, when did I disappear from this family? And is there any way back? I had no proof, no confession, but my heart already knew. Something was deeply wrong. And that first board document, with her signature, was only the beginning, the first crack pulling me toward the abyss. Ever since I saw that board document with her signature, I've been living with a constant unease. Every step into the company felt like walking through a crowded room, where every pair of eyes avoided mine. People who once called me boss now just nodded quickly, then turned away. I wasn't a co-founder anymore. I was just an old shadow, kept around for show. One morning, I walked into the big conference room. Slides for the new quarter were already on the table. I went to take my usual seat at the head, but before I could sit, the CEO's assistant came over. "Sorry, William, you're not on the list today." I frowned. "Not on the list? This is a strategy meeting. I've always led these." She looked down. The list was approved by the CEO. I can't change it. The door closed, right in my face. And from inside, I heard the CEO's voice. "As you all know, William now only supports operations. Strategic decisions will be handled by the new management team." The room went silent. I stood outside, ears ringing, like I'd just been slapped in front of everyone. No one had to say it out loud. I knew. They had just cut me off from my own seat at the table. The next day, I came to the office and found a young employee sitting at my old desk. He looked up, nervous. "Sorry, sir. I was just told to sit here from this week." I looked around. My files were gone. A new laptop sat on the desk. A new plan on the board. My chair now belonged to someone else. In that moment, I realized I wasn't part of this place anymore. I had already been replaced. That night, I checked our bank account. Another large charge at a luxury hotel. I printed it, laid it in front of her. "Explain this." She looked up, eyes cold. "Entertaining clients. Why are you nitpicking every penny? Why not let the company pay? Why use family money?" Her voice sharpened. "You still think the company sees you as anything? If you don't trust me, then fine. Handle things yourself." Her words hit me hard. Not just denial, but a shove. A clear line drawn. You're no longer part of this. A week later, leaving a client meeting downtown, I stopped at the entrance of a hotel, and I saw her, walking out, beside the new CEO, both smiling, talking softly, stepping into a luxury car, waiting outside. I froze. No touch, no kiss. But I didn't need more. Some truths don't need evidence, because your heart breaks the moment you see them. I didn't run up. I didn't shout. I just sat in my car, hands gripping the wheel until they turned white. And in that moment, I knew. I was no longer needed. Not in the company. Not in my marriage. That night, when I got home, my son brought me another drawing. This time, he had drawn a father. But the father was small, standing far away, almost outside the frame. I asked, "Why is Dad standing so far?" He answered innocently, "I was afraid. If I drew you too close, you'd disappear." His words pierced straight into me. A 10-year-old already felt the distance. He didn't need anyone to tell him. He saw it. In the empty dinners. In the nights, he fell asleep waiting. Later, when he went to bed, I faced my wife. "I saw you at the hotel with Mark. Do you still deny it?" She didn't flinch. Her eyes calm. "You think this company exists because of you?" "No, William. It will go on, with or without you." I went quiet and asked softly, "And this family? Will it go on without me?" She turned away. Her silence was the answer. I opened the fridge, took out an old box of noodles, sat at the empty table, eating in silence. The sound of my fork scraping the plate was louder than anything in that house. The chair beside me, where she used to sit, was nothing but an empty space. And I thought, this isn't home anymore. This is just where I sleep. The next day, I got a message from a loyal client. "William, sorry to hear you're no longer handling our account. We hope we can still work with you." I froze. So the company had officially announced it. Without telling me a word, I went to the CEO. He smirked. "William, you should rest. We need people who can keep up. You're too old." Every word fell heavy, like nails hammered into a coffin. I no longer had doubts. They had prepared everything to erase me. And now the pieces were complete. The board document, the hotel bills, the scene at the lobby, my son's innocent words, her cold replies, my colleague's pity, all pointing to the same truth. I had been erased. In the company, I had no voice. In the family, I was a fading shadow. I tried to fix it. I talked. I endured. I stayed silent. But the harder I tried, the further I was pushed away. Because when someone has already decided to erase you from their picture, every effort to stay only makes the stroke darker. That day, the entire management team and key staff gathered in the hall. The CEO stood on stage, presenting the new development plan. I sat in the front row, trying to look calm, even though I knew I'd already been pushed aside. Then suddenly, he spoke, his voice firm. Starting today, William will no longer be part of strategic decisions. He will only serve as an advisor when needed. The room went silent. I heard someone swallow hard. I felt eyes glance at me, then quickly turn away. My wife sat beside the CEO, her face cold as ice. She never once looked my way. I didn't move. But inside, I felt stripped bare. No power, no voice. Erased in public, right in front of the people who once called me boss. That afternoon, an email arrived from a rival company. William, we know you're no longer valued at your firm, but we believe in you. Come with us. The big clients will follow. I read it and felt a storm inside. Bitterness, but also relief. Strangers still saw my worth, while the people closest to me saw me as nothing. I walked into the boardroom. The CEO was there, my wife beside him. I placed my phone on the table, opened the email. This is the offer they've made. And the clients already said, without me, they're leaving. The CEO smirked. Clients will adapt. But you, William, you're just a name tied to the past. Your time is over. Josh, your time is over. I turned to my wife, searching her eyes, for warmth, for regret. But she looked straight at me, cold. William, you are the past. I don't want to live in your shadow anymore. I want to be myself. And I've already chosen. Her words cut straight through me. The woman who once held my hand at our wedding, promising we'd build everything together, now looked at me as nothing but an obstacle. My throat tightened. I asked, and this family? Will it still exist without me? Her reply came quiet, sharp as a knife. The family will go on, William. Just without you. The room fell silent. And right there, I felt like I had died once already. That night, I came home, tried to hide the emptiness in my face. My son ran up, wrapped his arms around me, whispered, Dad, Mom said you're not important anymore. Is that true? I froze. My heart shattered. A 10-year-old should never hear those words, should never have to ask his father that question. With trembling eyes, I held him tight, my voice breaking. No, to you, Dad will always matter, and I will always be here, for you. His tears fell on my shoulder, and in that moment I knew I could lose the company, I could lose the marriage, but I would never lose my place in my son's picture. The next day, I signed with a rival firm. News spread fast. By afternoon, the old CEO called, his voice shaking. William, we need you back. The clients are threatening to pull out. I'm willing to renegotiate. I smiled faintly, my voice steady. Too late. You erased me from this picture long ago. I'm just walking out now, with my head held high. On the line, silence. The silence of a man realizing he had destroyed his own pillar. When I packed my desk, my wife came in. For the first time in months, her voice trembled. William, don't go. I was wrong. We still have a son. I felt no anger. I simply opened the drawer, took out the framed photo that once sat on my desk. The three of us, smiling in front of our new home. I placed it in my bag. You erased me from this picture long ago. Not today. Not because of contracts. But the moment you chose a path without me. She broke down in tears. But I didn't look back. I walked out, lighter, like a chain had finally been cut. That night, I drove in the rain. The family photo sat quietly on the seat beside me. Through the windshield, the streetlights blurred, like memories fading away. I had lost my wife. I had lost my company. But I still held on to the most important thing. I would never again let anyone decide my worth. The real twist in my story wasn't betrayal. It was realizing this. Sometimes, leaving is the real victory. When I left the company, everything shifted fast. The rival firm gave me a new role. The big clients followed me right away. Meanwhile, my old company stumbled. Contracts lost. Employees messaged me, "It's not the same here anymore, boss." But I felt no triumph, only emptiness. Because what I mourned most wasn't a company. It was a family, already gone. One night, she knocked on the door of my new apartment. She looked worn down, dark circles under her eyes. "William, I know I was wrong. I've lost too much. Please, give me another chance." Her voice trembled. I sat silent for a long time, then answered softly, "I once begged you for a chance. I pleaded to stay in our family picture, but you erased me long ago. Now, a second chance is no longer mine to give, because it has no meaning." She broke into tears, then whispered, almost like a confession, "I don't love you like before, but I am grateful you've stayed a good father." The words cut deep. Not forgiveness, but a final verdict. That night, my son slept at my place. In the middle of the night, he stirred, clung to me, and whispered, "Dad, I heard Mom crying last night. She said she lost you. But you're still here, right?" I froze, held him tight. I wanted to say, "Yes, Dad is still here," but my throat closed up. A 10-year-old, who should be dreaming of Lego robots, was instead carrying his mother's tears and the fear of losing his father. At that moment, I knew I wasn't allowed to fall apart. A few weeks later, we were in court. The hearing was brief. No shouting, no fighting, just a few nods. I asked for nothing. No assets, no demands. Only the right to be a father. When I signed the papers, I looked at her one last time. "Thank you for at least giving me the one gift no one can take away, our son." She nodded, eyes red. And for the first time in months, I saw something real in her. Not coldness, not pretense. Just a woman who had lost too much. That night, my son brought me a new drawing. In it, 3 figures still stood together. But between Mom and Dad, he had drawn a broken line. I asked, "Why did you draw this?" He whispered, "I know you and Mom don't live together anymore, but I want both of you in my picture." I held him close, tears rolling down. He had spoken the truth. Families can break, but in a child's heart, both parents still belong. When he slept, I took the drawing and the divorce papers. I placed them in a small wooden box, locked it, and tucked it away, not to bury it, but to keep it, as memory and as pain, to remind myself never to forget, but also never to let it hold me forever. One morning, I dropped my son at school. I saw her at the gate. Our eyes met. No anger, no blame, only an understanding. We had reached the end of our road. My son grabbed both our hands, smiling. "See, I still have both Mom and Dad." And in that moment, I understood. The family picture may carry cracks, but I still stand in it. Because of him, I lost a wife. I lost a company, but I didn't lose myself. And more importantly, I kept the one role whole, being a father. The cost of betrayal is not only the breaking apart, it can also be an opening. To learn presence, to love in another form, to grow from pain. And that is what I choose. Not revenge, not resentment, but to move forward, calmer, deeper. Late at night, the apartment was quiet. Only the yellow lamp shone on the wooden box sitting on my table. I opened it. Inside was my son's drawing, the one with the crack between father and mother. Beside it, the signed divorce papers. And in the corner, one more thing I had kept, a faded wedding ring. I picked it up, turned it in my hand. Back then, at our wedding, I slid this ring onto her finger, believing it was a bond that would last forever. Now, it was only cold metal, lying between my son's drawing and the divorce decree. Memories came rushing back. The old dinners when we still sat together, our boy laughing in his high chair. The same table that later held only an empty chair, and the sound of forks on plates, echoing through silence. The past and the present collided inside me, and my chest ached. I had lost a company. I had lost a wife. But looking into that box, I realized something. Not every loss is a tragedy. Some are simply the price you pay to understand what's truly worth keeping. Once, I tried to hold on to everything. Now, I know the only thing I must hold on to, my place in my son's picture. That night, he sat by me at the window, rain tapping gently on the glass. He didn't speak, just leaned his head on my shoulder. I didn't speak either. I only wrapped my arm around him. We sat there, quietly, watching the rain fall. No words needed. We both understood. Sometimes, silent presence means more than any promise. In that moment, I felt peace. A simple peace, but deep. I was still here. For him. And he, innocent as he was, felt it too. I no longer blamed her. She had only chosen another road. Love is like a flame. It burns bright once, but eventually it dies. If you try to keep it forever, all that remains are ashes and scars. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It just means no longer letting pain control you. I forgave her, so I could be free. And I forgave myself, for being blind, for being weak. My new work gave me respect, not for a title, but for simply being who I am. I no longer needed to prove my worth through anyone else. I poured my energy into small things. The morning coffee, my son's laughter, the sound of an old guitar I picked up again after years. Maybe loss had taught me this. To truly live, sometimes you must let go of what you once thought you could never release. I put the wedding ring back in the box, beside the drawing with the crack. Then I took out a pen and drew one small detail on the paper, a little bridge crossing the crack, not to mend a broken marriage, but to remind myself that between father and mother, there will always be one permanent bond, our son. I once thought strength meant holding on at any cost, but now I know true strength is letting go when you've already been let go, so you can hold on to the one thing that must never be lost. I finally understand. Clinging to a hand that has already released you isn't courage. The real courage is making sure these little hands never have to let go.